Hello everyone, this is Stephen Gibson, and today I've got another update for Grimslingers 2. Today we're going to talk about new loot cards that have been added in, some changes to how the guns work, and how creatures work, and a little how quests work in the game, which I kind of talked about before, so maybe I won't go over that, and how global events work, as well as the Fate deck and the campaign. So let's talk loot. So now you can see there's rare cards. I may have had some of them in before, but now I've got all the rare cards except for weapon parts. Weapon parts are I'm still testing them, and since each new rarity is just kind of an upgrade of the previous, I've decided not to go ahead and push forward with more weapon parts until I've tested that more. But in terms of items and spells, we can look through here. There's 50. Well, some of these are duplicates, which is important because sometimes you want two of a card, but we've got lots of cool new cards happening in here. For instance, Arcane Bow. If the card's power matches the card's power across from it before or after other effects are applied, flip the opposing card. Cool little puzzle there. We've got Permanence, which is a cool spell orb. Put this card on top of any card in play. These two cards will not be discarded at the end of a round unless you want them to be. So this one lets you keep cards between rounds, which is pretty fun. And then we've got all kinds of... There's just so many different things to do as you level up, and different strategies and ways to play that. I honestly, the combat system is getting really, really deep, especially with these new legendaries that just got added. They add some really cool effects. For instance, this one has 10 power. It's massive, but it has to stay in play for the entirety of combat. You don't discard it, and it loses power each round. But one way that you can play into that loss of power is every marker that... So at the end of the round, do not discard this card and add one marker to it. Each marker is -4 power. There's another card you can add, which is the Catalytic Doodad. And Catalytic Doodad works for so many different cards, but if you were to build a strategy around using it on Decaying Claymore, the Catalytic Converter doubles the amount of markers on cards. So when you get down to, say, I don't know, 2 power or something like that, you could then also play with your Decaying Claymore Evert, which makes it so anything that reduces your power now increases it. So what you do is you allow Decaying Claymore to get to, I don't know, -8 power, and then you would and you'd speed up that process so you don't have a bad turn using the Catalytic Doodad. And then with Evert in play, you could double the amount of tokens on Decaying Claymore, making its negative power really high, but because of Evert, that's now going to give you power. So it starts off really strong, and then if you kind of play this strategy, it can end really strong. So there's all these cards are made in mind with having these cool little synergies that you can play into that just do really interesting things. I think people are going to just have a ton of fun with the combat. Yeah, I won't go into every single one, but each one plays into kind of cool idea. So those are some legendary cards. I have made a decision in order to make sure the game gets done. The loot pools are just going to be common, rare, and legendary. Mythical is not going to be added. That'll be the first expansion. One is the game's card count was getting a little crazy, over 1,000 cards, and I just didn't feel like I needed to make the game that big from the start to make sure that I could get it done. So we're going to leave Mythical out for now, but there still will be the special loot cards. And, between these, each one is, 100, 150 cards, these loot pools. Not at the moment, but there's so much room to play with that. Many, many hours. So next up, we're going to talk about... let's talk about the creature attack decks, which I did before, but I just want to say we've refined these a lot, that they're really interesting. Attack deck 1 is more the tutorial deck. You kind of starting out, it's not too hard. Attack deck 2 is where things get serious. We're going to go up to attack deck 4 in the core game. And, yep. Okay, so quest cards, those haven't changed. Fate cards. Now, before it was you draw fate and you shuffle it in. Now, whenever you gain a consequence, it's going to go straight on top. So you're going to see that consequence much sooner. And the reason for that is now, because I've changed the way creatures work. There was a criticism that creatures didn't feel too different because they all use the same attack decks. Before, they had kind of a starting thing that you would do, and then you wouldn't worry about it before, which mechanically worked fine. But we want, obviously, Grimslingers to be as thematic as possible. So what I've gone and done, which is a little over the top, but each creature now has 6 starting events and 6 ending events. So when you go into battle with this creature, first you draw up to your hand size, and then you do the start event, which is an event specific to that creature that everyone has to resolve, and it kind of changes what the combat with them could be like. Some of them are branching, some of them have choices. It feels very thematic. So, for instance, with bandits, you would roll 1d6, you'd resolve this event. So, say you got a 4, call for help. The bandits that engaged you seem like they're having second thoughts, as one of them has begun shouting at the top of their lungs, that's spelled wrong, for help. If you're not quick about it, any nearby... That's still spelled wrong. If you're not quick about it, any nearby friends of theirs may come to their aid. One player must immediately discard enough cards to total 8 power to dispatch the boisterous bandit. Otherwise, roll 1d6 and resolve the outcome. So you see how they have branching outcomes. 1 through 3, they have friends come to the fight, so you have to do more rounds of combat. 4 through 6, nothing happens. So you could take a chance with that one. But you see how the starting event changed the way combat was. Oh, now combat's longer because there's more people. And that plays into the whole theme and your imagination of what's going on in this fight. Sleight of hand is an interesting one that I'll read too. A wily, smooth-talking group of slick Slytherin bandits confront you. With a clever diversion and sleight of hand, they've managed to disarm you for the fight. I can't read today. All players must discard all of their weapon attacks from their combat deck. However, the bandits aren't without mercy or want for entertainment. They offer to give back your weapons if you can beat them at a game of cards. Pick one player to play cards as the leader of the bandits. So then you're going to do like a little mini game of blackjack. If you win, you get your weapon attack cards back. If you lose, what happens if you lose? Nothing happens if you lose. You just have to fight them. So it's like a fun little, it really adds to it. Now the end events are, again, there's 6 end events. So in total in the game, I think there are 8 creatures. There's around 96 of these events in the game. So I've had to reduce how many creatures I'm putting in because now each comes with, their own page of content or more. Let's look at an end event. So your first round of combat, you're doing the start event. After that round of combat is over, in between rounds, you're going to draw a fate card. All right, and then combat's usually 2 rounds. So then, if combat's 2 rounds, when you've finally defeated the creatures, you would then do their end event. This is before you gain loot and everything from them. So let's go with mercy. The bandits, clearly defeated, beg you to let them live. Will you? So you have a choice here, yes or no. And different things happen depending on what you choose. If you say no, you deny their request and end them. Roll 1d6 to determine the consequences of your actions. So now we get consequence card added to the fate deck. But in a rare event, you might find a treasure map on them that opens a dungeon area event. I guess I could also tell you guys about how I've introduced a new mechanic, which are pop-up dungeons. They're pretty cool. Do I have it here? Procedural dungeon. Yeah. So basically, procedural dungeons they all get set up the same, but depending on how it started, that would be like the dungeon if we found the treasure map with the bandits, okay, so this is like a bandit hideout that we found. They all have a boss. They all have treasure cards. They have traps, and it's in order to get to the boss, you have to find the boss key by searching, and so you might spend like 30 minutes in one of these pop-up dungeons, and that's something that happens frequently. It's a great way to get loot. They're very optional. You don't have to do them, and there'll be a token sometimes too that pop up on the map to be like, oh, you found treasure map to this area, and there's a pop-up dungeon. So back to creatures. So now if you let them live, they thank you for your mercy. You get to add the mercy consequence card to the fate deck. But then you also have to roll. Now it may turn out that you let them live and then they go and this one they're about to stage a massive takeover of the area, and then you pop up 3 different bandit takeovers, so it's going to make the area harder. So each choice has good or bad options, and you can kind of play into the theme there. It just feels so much better now for creatures that they have all these very specific events that can happen that feel good. So that's a massive change to how creatures work, and a little bit about how combat works. Next change I want to talk about is the weapon. We've been working hard on making sure all the building your weapon is really cool. We've switched the clash and match bonuses. So now to get a match bonus, both icons have to match. Before it was just one. Now for the match bonus, both icons have to match. The clash bonus is just, there has to be one clash. So obviously it's easier to get the clash bonus. Let me grab... the reason we switched to the clash and match bonus, like their effects, so now you see that match is on the bottom and clash is on top, is because before the clash bonus was actually much better than the match bonus, which is not what I wanted. So you can see that the match bonus gives you a huge boost to whole type of card, whereas clash bonus is just +2 power to your weapon attacks. So that change just felt real good. Happy with that. The campaign, you can see that I've got a lot more of the campaign written here, and it's also a tutorial. It is challenging to write because it's basically writing the rulebook and the campaign at the same time, how it works. So it'll be like a little bit of story that leads into here. Okay, now the point of this is that when you get the game, you just open the box, open the book, and you start reading, and it tells you, okay, take this out of the box now, take that, put it here, here's how you set that up. So you're setting up, learning, and playing all at the same time. I think in order to do it, it'll probably take you 2 hours your first go. But then after that, playtime is different. I'm trying to have it do tutorial 1 is 1 hour, and tutorial 2 is another hour. But in total, 2 hours to kind of learn the whole game. And that's been going well. And the story's pretty cool. Still working on making sure it's top notch and exciting. But there's certainly some mystery involved. Overall, for areas, I can't remember if I talked in this last episode. I should have vlog or whatever. I believe I have, but there are lots of refinements that have happened. Each little area has its own little side quest. That plays into a thing. I'm adding more. I'm going to probably have 3 or 4 areas now. Before I was planning on maybe a little less, but I'm going to make the areas a little less dense than this one. But I think it's important that there is a lot more traversal in the game, a lot more feeling like you're moving through a larger swath of area than maybe just one map, because it starts to feel a little claustrophobic. I want people to, because right now it's sort of like, okay, let's complete this area, then move on to the next and never come back here. I want it to be more of coming and going between areas, and like, oh, let's go back to this area and finish this quest. And yeah, I want that to be happening a lot more. So no, this was a lot of talking and not a lot of playing, but I'm also going to do a playthrough just to kind of show off and show people who haven't seen this yet, what the most recent experiences playing through this game. So thank you for listening and watching. Hope you've enjoyed this update. The game is getting real good and much closer to being finished. So thank you.